4. Today's episode 4. We're going to be going over testimonies. So a testimony is kind of a churchy thing. I don't know if people say testimony outside of the church.
Probably not.
It's like you're supposed to give your testimony to kind of like help people understand your life and how you came to God and blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. So the testimony is kind of your backstory, right? So we're going to go over our testimonies. And the interesting thing is most of the time I talk to people like Vanessa, she has no idea of my backstory.
Yeah.
Because I don't tell nobody anything.
Yeah.
Like I'll tell them little bits and things, but it's more of like the story I want people to know rather than the story that is. Yeah. If that makes sense.
It does.
So let's start with you. Okay. You're used to giving your story, I think. I think you're more open to that kind of stuff than I naturally am.
Yeah. I grew up Catholic.
Really?
I did.
That's surprising.
Yeah.
Because I know your dad and your mom, and they're like super Christian.
Yeah.
Well, Christian meaning Protestant.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So both my parents were Catholic, grew up Catholic. My dad had a lot of questions, and the Catholic religion didn't like questions, at least the people that he was talking to. They never really had answers. They didn't ever want to talk about the Bible. You know, he was searching. And he joined Amway.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Amway led him to abundance. And
wow.
My dad read the Bible and was just really searching for stuff. And his upline was like, hey, you should start going to this church. I've heard great things.
Upline.
His upline, Bruce and Wendy. Oh, they were diamonds. I don't know what that means. I just remember hearing that.
Diamonds means they're making big bucks.
They're making big bucks.
So, okay, couple words that people don't probably understand. So network marketing is kind of like multi-level marketing, which is Amway.
Yes.
So it's like, think of Amway's kind of, a lot of people know Amway, but maybe Mary Kay or like Herbalife or something like that.
That's how we started going to Abundant.
And Abundant's a non-denominational, big like word of faith church.
Yeah.
So it's people that listen to this that don't know what that is.
Yeah.
You know, we know.
That's true.
We know Abundant is kind of like the church, you know. Hey, are you going to the church today? But it's not. It's a church.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
It's kind of like America has the World Series of baseball and we only invite like Canada. You know, like there's no other country, right?
Yeah.
America's a little boastful.
We started going to a non-denominational church. Christian-based, Judeo-Christian. So it was amazing for us.
It's an evangelical... and it's also a charismatic church. So evangelical meaning is a Bible-based church.
Okay.
And charismatic means it believes in the gifts of the Spirit. And so the charismatic movement even went through the Catholic Church. A lot of people don't know that. It also has the fivefold ministry. So we won't get into all the details of that, but just to help understand.
So I was like 6, 7. And it was amazing because my parents were kind of on the verge of divorce. Oh, no. They got married because they got pregnant with me. Oh. Yeah, I was actually also almost aborted.
Whoa.
So abortion's like a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I'm grateful that I was born.
Yeah, we are too.
And I wasn't born in the best situation.
Yeah, economically, maybe.
Economically, they didn't really know each other. They love each other now. They've been together. They're still together. There's 4 girls. I'm the oldest. So yeah, I was almost aborted, but I wasn't. And
that was like super taboo back then.
Yeah. It was a lot.
You were born in the 80s?
87.
Okay.
It was a good year.
Yeah. It was a good year for you.
Yeah. So it was. I made it. I'm alive. So started going to Abundant.
How did you find out that you were possibly aborted?
My mom told me.
When?
When I was very young, and I probably should not have known that. Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
I don't think you tell somebody that
until
they're like 18.
Until they understand.
Until like 18, 20, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like finding out you're adopted, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. That's rough.
You know what I mean? Like that's a hard conversation to really understand.
It is, yeah. So it was a hard time. Financially, spiritually, like with my parents, they were always arguing. There was a lot of turmoil in the house. We found Abundant, and it was night and day different.
Wow.
And my parents got very into church. We were there Saturdays, Sunday, all day. We were serving, we were volunteering, we were there Wednesdays. I was on the dance ministry. Like, we were in everything.
Dance. Okay.
Dance.
Like spirit
Jazz
fingers.
fingers.
Jazz fingers.
Yes. Jazz fingers for Jesus.
Is that the Saturday Night Live? Is that what that was?
No,
from?
that's from
Mad TV. Was it Mad TV?
It's a movie. Bring It On.
Maybe it was Bring It On.
These aren't spirit fingers.
Yes. These are spirit fingers. Yes, that's where it was from.
So it was amazing. Like, I literally saw, like, my parents were on the verge of divorce.
How old were you when you were kind of aware of all that?
I was aware of it very early on. Like, I was helping taking care of my sisters, very aware of the financial situation. Like, I'd never ask for extra anything. You know, my little sisters now, like Jenna, my youngest, I always remember I was 13 when she was born. My parents were doing very well by then. And she'd go to the store and ask for a chocolate at the, checkout counter. How
dare you?
Yeah. And my mom was like, yeah, anybody else want one? And I'm like, oh, I never got that. But I got over it. Like, I get it, but it was weird. Like, we grew up very different.
Yeah.
Very, very different. And church saved us. God saved our family. I think I would be a very different person. The people that were around us weren't that great. So,
like friends and family, or
yeah, friends and family, neighbors that were in our lives. It was a lot, and I'm really grateful.
Where did you grow up at? What side of town?
West Side.
Yeah, were you? Because your dad told me he was from
Buena Vista.
Yeah, and he kind of grew up in, what is it called, that area that
Smelter Town.
The Smelter
My
Town.
dad grew up in Smelter Town. A lot of people, El Pasoans, don't know about Smelter Town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he grew up in Smelter Town.
Yeah.
And the neighborhood, Buena Vista, is all still there. Not the Smelter Town part, but like where he grew up. Yeah, there's a lot of history there. It's pretty cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So what about your story of, because that's kind of like your backstory, but what about your story?
So, as I think a lot of my testimony comes into play when I'm an adult, especially. I had my babies and I had really bad postpartum depression.
Okay.
So I had Addie about 8 years ago. I did not know. I'd always heard postpartum depression was moms not wanting to bond with their babies. They didn't want to touch their babies. They didn't want to bond with their babies. That's what I thought it was. And that's not what I had. I had no energy for anything else except for Addie. Even our dogs. We've had our dogs since we were in college. They were our first babies. Then I told Jake, like, if you want them to live, you got to feed them. I didn't want them to touch me. I didn't want anybody touching me. Addie could touch me. I could hold her. But like, I couldn't be touched. Loud noises would just frazzle me. My nerves were just like, I couldn't handle a lot. And I really thought I was going crazy. And I had it for 18 months. And I watched a video on YouTube. On Facebook with an actress. Her name is Hayden Panettiere. She was talking about her postpartum story. And everything that she went through was exactly what I went through. And I was like, yes. I'm not going crazy. I just have postpartum depression.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I got pregnant again with Aria. And I felt amazing. I feel great when I'm pregnant. I'm like, my hormones are great. I glow. I'm happy. Like, I feel amazing.
Yeah, because you're normally real happy-go-lucky.
Yes.
Bubbly personality.
Yeah. And then after her, I realized my pattern is once I stop nursing, within 30 days, I'll gain 20 pounds and I will be severely depressed. So it started happening again, but we knew what it was. So Jake was able to help me. And the things that helped me were working out. Like, working out is so important. I can tell night and day a difference in my mental health.
Wow.
Yeah. And then CBD as well. I was trying all these natural things, so I didn't want to try medication first. I had a lot of friends that did, and it helped. Other friends, they felt like zombies. And when I was depressed, I felt like a zombie. So I didn't want to be like, I was like a sad zombie. So I didn't want to just be a zombie. I wanted to figure it out. And
have you ever had your, like you ever gone to the doctor side of it? like took pills and any of that
No,
stuff?
I didn't. I didn't need to.
Okay.
The CBD and the working out helped
Okay.
so much. And then me being like, it's kind of cool. My husband, Jake, he's so patient and kind, and he observes. So he's also part of the reason why I realized, like, and he can tell. And it's really weird too, in pictures and in video, like back then, one of the things that I do that's like a sign of my depression or the depression is I'll just stare off into space. Like I'll be in a conversation and I'll be like, but I'm just like not there.
There are people.
I'm not there. And it's really sad to see. Jake and I know it when we see the pictures or the videos, and other people had no idea anything was wrong. Like my closest friends were like, you should have told us. And I'm like, I couldn't. Like I couldn't. I didn't know how. I didn't even know I had it at first, you know? And now I feel really, really good. I think depression is something that I have to be very mindful of. And I work out, reading my Bible as well, like adding that to my daily. I can tell when I stop doing that, like, I don't know, something's a little off, you know? But working out, reading my Bible, CBD, those are like the things that really helped me a lot.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then I started my CBD business. And that's when I talk to people a lot more about depression. And I sell my stuff at farmers markets. I'm taking a break right now. I haven't done it in a while. But it was amazing to like talk to people about CBD. And men, I'd share my story because people don't talk about depression. They don't talk about postpartum depression, you know? And I'd share my story about it. And guys would be like, babe, come over here. You need to talk to this girl. So many people struggle. So many people. And nobody talks about it. So I like to talk about it because it makes it, like, I literally realized what I had when I watched an actress talk about her experience because I didn't know that's what I had. And doctors don't ask you questions, you know, like family members, like, oh, what's the baby blues? Like, she'll be fine, you know? So there's a lot.
What is a natural, because I'm sure there's like a natural detachment. I'm just speculating because I'm a guy, right? You know, like I told my wife, it's funny. I'm a little bit of an idiot if you haven't noticed. And we were having one of the babies, I forget which one, and we walk into the place she's having the baby, right? Yeah. So we're getting set up at the hospital, and then our doctor walks in, and she's this really cool, like African American lady, like literally African American. Oh, cool, yeah. And she has like a big fro. And she's so cute. Yeah. She's like the sweetest lady. And she told my wife, she tells me joking, Mr. Beck, what have you done? Right? And I said, I had very little to do with it. Like my level of involvement is like maybe 15, 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like the rest of it, I have no idea. Like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like if you really think about the male contribution to like having a baby, yeah, it's not much. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we sit there and watch it happen, you know, terrified. And and then you somehow make a baby in your body. Yeah. And then the baby comes out and it doesn't kill both of you. Yeah. And then you feed the baby with your body. Yeah. And then somehow you don't sleep. Yeah. And get superpowers not to be able to sleep. And we're just there. You know what I mean? Like we get like sympathy. Like there's true, like a lot of people don't know that guys gain just as much excess weight as women does.
Yeah. With Addie, he did. And he would joke about it too. He'd rub his belly.
Yeah. Because you get like the sympathy weight, you know what I mean? Because you know, and the guy is stressed out. Like he's not stressed out. Yeah. He knows a big responsibility is happening. Yeah. And that you're vulnerable at this moment in time. And that has more responsibility that's coming in the future. Yeah. And it's going to be for a long haul. Yeah. You know, so it's kind of like, that's, I think, where most of the stress, I think, comes from is from the responsibility. The responsibility of it all. Yeah. The guys carry that responsibility very different than women do, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
But what's the difference, would you say, between like a normal disconnection between when the baby comes out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you stop breastfeeding.
Yeah.
And then like postpartum depression.
Yeah.
Because to me, I don't know where the two divide or separate.
Yeah. There's just so much. Your hormones are going crazy. And I don't know, like, the technical
you're not
time
a doctor
frame.
or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah. But there is a time frame where you're just like, you know, like even when it's going to be that time of the month, women get more emotional about things, you know, like our hormones are going crazy.
Really?
Yeah. You had no idea? So
actually, my wife, I'm lucky. She's not that bad.
She's pretty. A dog commercial. I'm just like,
really?
Look at that beautiful flower. I don't want to be crying, but my body is crying. Yeah. It's terrible. I even had a conversation with one of my girls' teachers, and it was like I was emotional for no reason. I don't want to be crying, but I was. I was like, just ignore my crying. I'm sorry. Like, it's whenever there's like heightened emotion, I'll cry. I hate it.
Wow, this is so
But
weird.
I don't have control of the tears.
Yeah, like if a guy was crying, I'm like, dude, what's wrong with you?
Are you okay?
Yeah.
You want to go fix yourself and
like,
come back?
You need to call somebody.
It's not going to be me.
Yeah, like unless he's going through something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think like talking about the church, I remember the first time I saw Charles cry on stage after his wife passed.
Oh my God. Anytime he talks about Rochelle.
And it broke me.
Yeah.
Because he was a guy that was so strong and so tough and never broken, you know what I mean? And he always had this portrayal of strength. And then to see him weak, it was like heartbreaking for us. You know what I mean? I think for all of us.
Yes. Yeah. It's emotional. Anytime he talks about her, I like tear up. Still to this day.
I think there's something like in us all. And it's weird because we went through it totally different and disconnected to the actual core of what's going on. Yeah. We just went through it like almost like the Truman Show, people watching the Truman Show, you know what I mean? You ever seen the Truman Show? And they're like, the people are all watching it happen. All drinking a beer at the bar, you know? Real life. Yeah. He's like, oh my God, he's going to get out. But he had no idea that we're going through it with him the same amount, you know what I mean? Or maybe he does some way. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. So
but I think mine is hormonal, like the depression stuff. Like, I don't know. And I get my levels checked and I'm very low. We had talked about this. So my hormones, everything's fine. My vitamin D is always low. And I'll get vitamin D shots and different things. And we've talked about this, like vitamin D, you shouldn't think of it as a vitamin. It's a lot more like a hormone. It is, yeah. And it's super important for a lot of your bodily functions. It's very, very important. So figuring out levels of that and just working really hard to be present. And there's different things that I'll say to myself that are not good when I'm in deep depression. One of them is I'm broken.
The self-speak.
Yes. It just like you're broken. And then I had C-sections. So there was different complications in my body where I had like literally when the nerves start to grow back together, you'll have spasms. The first time I had a spasm, Addie was 9 months, and I coughed and I was holding her and all of my ab muscles clenched down and I was in so much pain and I was still coughing and I was holding her and my dad was like, what do I do? And I was just coughing and in pain and he took the baby and then I walked away and it finally went away. But I was like 9 months later and I'm still broken. Like my body's broken. I'm broken. And so changing that self-talk as well and switching it with positive self-talk this helped me so much. One of the times I was going through like a hard time. 'Cause I have a very strong understanding of who God is and who Jesus is to me. I know who he is undeniably. I know. And I was saying some negative self-talk out loud. And Jacob was like, was that what Jesus thinks of you? Immediate tears. Like, I want to cry right now. And I was like, no. He was like, well, then stop telling yourself that. Because that's not true. And that's not what God thinks of you. And I was like, You're right.
He's a good dude. You got a good dude.
I got a good one. I got a keeper.
Yeah.
Even my dad was like, I wasn't going to let that one get away. I'm like, Dad, what does that mean?
You're not going to screw it up.
Yeah. He's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. So having a helpful partner as well helped so much.
Yeah.
He stepped in when I couldn't even clean the house. I couldn't even wash the dishes. My mom was like, just do it. And I'm like, you don't understand. I can't. Because she doesn't understand that, you know? And even Jake was frustrated with it too, but I was like, I can't. I'd stand there and like want to do them. And I couldn't get past it. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It does. Even me saying it now because I'm healthy, like mentally, doesn't make sense. But that's how it felt. I'm like trying and I can't.
I've seen you do dishes.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, I've seen
we did a lot of dishes this weekend.
I saw you do dishes. I was like, she can do dishes.
Yeah, but I couldn't. It was just so strange.
Yeah.
It was like, it wasn't me. But for years, it wasn't me.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm back now.
That's really good. That's an interesting testimony. I don't know. I don't think I've experienced much with depression.
Yeah.
Depression's kind of like a strange thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that people that are very low in neuroticism don't deal with.
Yeah.
Not saying that I don't have lows.
Yeah.
Like I've had some pretty low lows in life, but I think, is it like a feeling of defeat, or is it a feeling of hopelessness, or what is the feeling? Empty.
Mine's just empty.
Empty.
Yeah.
That's the closest, like.
Yeah, and it wasn't even sad, but I'd cry. Like Jacob would come home and I'd be sitting in the shower with the water hitting me. It's like you had nothing to give. Yeah. I only had enough for Addie and my girls. I had enough to bathe them, feed them, take care of them. Everybody else, I have nothing else for you.
Wow.
I couldn't. So I was grateful that I could care for them because that would suck. But even like when the depression's really bad, I can't be touched. And my babies are very snuggly babies, you know? And so I got to the point where, because I would, like, Addie would be snuggling on me and I'm just like, I want to peel my skin off. Like, I can't, like, please don't touch me. But how do you tell your baby not to touch you? You know?
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it was hard, but we worked out a way. So Addie would ask me, I got her to ask me, Mom, can I snuggle with you? And if I couldn't in that day or that moment, I would say, yeah, of course, because I don't want to say no. And she'd hug me. And I'd be like, come here, give me a hug. Let's snuggle. And I'd hug her. And I'd say, can you go snuggle with Dad? Because I'm going to go make up a story. You know, I'm going to go take a shower or whatever. And so Jake would take on the snuggles so that she wouldn't feel rejected, you know? But I couldn't be touched. Even the dogs, like, I just literally felt like I wanted to peel my skin off, which sounds weird.
No, it makes sense. That's what it is. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's a conscious decision. So I think that's where the forgiveness of self and the grace for you and your kids, you know, it's not your natural state. I know. We know you. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then that's you want to snuggle thing. With everybody.
I do. I know. I'm a snuggle bug too. Yeah. And that was like, I'm broken. You know, like I can't even snuggle my babies. Like what's wrong? What mom doesn't want to snuggle her babies?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then all these girls are like, maybe in some crazy way where the scripture says that he makes all things work for good, where you went through this and it wasn't good, but he's going to make it good because he's going to help people that dealt with it and felt like there's something broken in them, that there's some hope for it. You know what I mean? That there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Exactly. And I'm so much better now, and talking to other people, I think just talking about it's healing, you know, and meeting those ladies at the farmer's market and just telling them how I felt. And
hence your testimony.
Yeah. And I've found that light at the end of the tunnel. I feel better, but every day I have to do the right things, work out, eat well, read my Bible, take my CBD, like all of that. If I skip any of those, I'm not at my best, but I'm still okay. But if I skip those consecutively, I feel like, it could come back. So I'm careful with it. I'm so careful with it.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
So much better.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
That's good. We're happy you're on the other side of that.
Thank you.
That sounds crazy.
Yeah.
I have a little similar story, nothing to do with depression, but I in my testimony there's a part where I did feel like something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that feeling is terrifying.
Yeah.
That feeling, because it's not like, it's like, how does the world see me? Like,
Mm-hmm.
am I the crazy person in
Yeah.
the room, right? It's
Yeah.
like that. That's a weird feeling.
It is.
It's a really terrifying feeling. You know what I mean? A little backstory. So my mom she grew up Jehovah's Witness,
Mm-hmm.
and her mom was Jehovah's Witness, I think, for like 5 or 6 generations. So she was like OG.
Deep, yeah.
You know what I mean? And then my grandfather, her father was, I think, like grew up Baptist or something,
Mm-hmm.
Lutheran or something, and he joined the Jehovah's Witness church. So my mom grew up that way. When she got to like 15, one of the guys, an older guy in the church, like got with her, and she got pregnant, right?
Damn.
And because they didn't want a baby out of wedlock, they forced him to get married.
Yeah.
And he was like 18, 19, and she was like 15, 16. And this is how my older brother came.
Okay.
And so they got married, and then he was like physically abusive and like a crazy psycho guy. And so they got divorced. My mom was still in the church, and then she met my dad at a bar, right? Mm-hmm. My dad was like a bouncer. My dad grew up Catholic, and then the charismatic movement went through the Catholic Church, and then he became born again, spirit filled, and then he found Charles's Bible study, who's the pastor at Abundant, and he would go frequently, but he wasn't brought up with his dad, so he was like a kid.
Yeah.
He was still a boy in his head.
Yeah.
And he started dating my mom, and then he would talk to my mom about scripture that he's learning from Charles, and then he would like try and take apart the Jehovah's Witness stuff, and then my mom would take the Jehovah's Witness stuff to the church, which is kind of similar like your dad.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't answer the questions.
Yeah.
So she decided one day that she's no longer going to be with Jehovah's Witness Church. And then like a week later, she came home one day and all of her stuff was outside of the house. Yeah. So she got kicked out of the house. Her and my dad were just dating. Yeah. And so they kind of, they was forced to like move in together and get married, right? And so, and my dad was not stable financially. And it means, I think my mom was like maybe 19 and my dad was like 21, something like that, when I came. And they were always getting kicked out of houses and evicted from properties, and like my dad couldn't keep a job. Yeah. And so my mom got tired of that, right?
No stability. And they already had you.
Yeah, and they had my older brother,
okay.
right? And we're like 2.5 years apart, something like that. And then so then my mom divorces him. She moves out on her own, and then she gets hooked up with this other guy, and he was a restaurant owner, right? And then they start dating, and then they have my little brother, and then later on they get married, and he becomes my stepdad, and we live together for, I don't know, 18, 20 years or something like that. They were married for like 18, 20 years. And then my dad, so that's where I grew up, and my dad had another wife in the middle who was a stripper. Huh. Yeah, my story's kind of crazy. And and I won't go into how that happened. It's too long a story. And then she gets converted. My dad starts preaching at a church.
Okay.
And then he starts being the chaplain at Thomason Hospital.
Oh, wow.
And then him and another guy that was working at Thomason Hospital started a church. He was a Nigerian guy. And
how old were you during that?
I was maybe like 8. And then he starts a church. And so I would go to church and to Thomason Hospital, and we'd pray over the sick and have a little service at Thomason, and then we'd go and have the big church on the weekend and build this whole church out of nothing. That's kind of the churchy side of it, right? And then my dad gets divorced from his second wife because she cheats on him. I have a sense memory of my being at my dad's house at night, and then the second wife, she's drunk outside.
Oh no.
Acting like a cat, like meowing, like meow, and scratching at the door trying to get in the house. And my dad like yelling at her, "Get out of here," you know what I mean? And like she
sounds scary.
She was a really crazy woman. She had a lot of demons, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like she used to not wash the dishes, not vacuum, and wait for us to come on the weekend so we could do it.
Oh.
Yeah.
You and your brother?
Mm-hmm. I think that's why I hate dishes.
Oh, we figured it out.
This might be
that makes total sense.
Yeah. Some of the biggest problems I had was at a young age, for whatever reason, I didn't care about school. It's funny because I like education, but I hate school. It's kind of like one of my favorite salesy things to say is, everybody likes to buy, but nobody likes to be sold.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I like to learn, but I don't like to be taught.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, on your terms.
Yeah, like, and school was just very much like regurgitate information, and I don't see it. I hate that thought. Mm-hmm. I hate the thought of just learning information just because you said so. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, why? Why do I care? You know what I mean? Yeah. And if I didn't care, then I wouldn't. But if I care about something, if there's a vision to it, then I can learn faster than anybody else. Yeah. Which is kind of weird. Yeah. So, but at a young age, I was not good in school. So then they put me in a special class. So I was in this class called Resource. Oh. Right? So my core classes, I was in this special class, which means you just really didn't have to work hard. Yeah. And you had no homework, which was great. Great, yeah. 'Cause I'm a kid, I'm going to take that. Yeah. You know? And so I just didn't do any homework. And coasted through school. And then in middle school, they had to take a test because they couldn't figure out why I wouldn't sit in my chair, right? Kind of like Abigail. And then they diagnosed me with ADD, right? So then they gave me Ritalin.
And you took it.
Yeah, so I was taking Ritalin in middle school. I think it was like 7th grade. And I would take it, and then I would like go into like a tunnel. Ooh. It's like, ooh. You know what I mean? It reminds me a lot of like The Matrix, where he like does that little, and like the whole side's kind of like, yeah. That's how it felt.
Did you like that feeling?
No, I hated it.
Was your dad, was he on board with you taking?
To be honest, most of my parents were still young and they didn't know what the hell they were doing.
Okay, yeah.
And like, don't get me wrong, like my parents were great.
Yeah.
But they didn't, like my school was not on their radar, and I was kind of the quintessential Gen X kid. Yeah. Latchkey kid. Totally. I was a good guy. I wasn't a bad kid. Yeah. I got in fights a lot, but I was like more defending people. Yeah. I wasn't like a bully or anything. I would beat up the bullies. And so I would take that, and then I would go to school, and I was just like a zombie. And then and I had like I have a big personality. So it was weird, you know.
It was like
I wasn't myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't myself. And so then I started spitting it out on the way to school, hiding it under my tongue, and then spitting it out. Yeah. And then one day I just told my mom, I was like, I can't take this stupid stuff anymore. And she was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I don't think I can take it anymore. And she just like, okay. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. Yeah.
So I stopped taking it. I think I was like on it for maybe a year, maybe in 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I think it messed with me hormonally, mentally, everything. It messed everything up because it's pretty much speed.
Yeah.
Ritalin is speed.
Yeah.
You know, and we didn't know this at the time. Like, nobody knew.
I feel like Big Pharma knew.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like, so my mom didn't know, and we went to a doctor, and the doctor supposedly said, yeah, he's got it because, you know, he doesn't want to sit in his chair. And I'm like, what boy wants to sit in a chair for 8 hours a day?
Yeah.
Especially when he's 7th grade, right? So then, so I went off of it. And then for like the next year, I went through withdrawals. I would wake up and it's funny that we never really connected as to why. Because Ritalin wasn't drugs.
Yeah, it's medicine.
It's medicine.
Yeah.
You know? So I would wake up in the middle of the night and try and jump out the window.
Oh my gosh.
Screaming at the top of my lungs, like in a trance. Yeah.
Were you like in control or
No.
what? It was a trance?
I was like in a trance.
That's scary.
And then I had like extreme fear of claustrophobia.
Whoa.
So I felt like it was funny. I would look at in my room. We had like, my brother had license plates in his room.
Yeah.
Not sure why.
That was a thing. I feel like people did that. Yeah.
And I felt like the license plate was like closing in around me, and I was like getting like. And it's funny, the movie that really made me like I would have terror attacks was the movie Demolition Man. Oh yeah. Where they put him in like a block of ice.
Yeah.
That was so terrifying. I still cannot watch that movie.
Really?
Yeah, I still can. It gives me like.
Ugh.
Like I used to go into like terror fits.
No.
And I remember one time I was even in my mom's closet on summer break or something, and I think I had like a mini stroke. I think I just like fell down, and then I kind of woke up later, and I never said anything to anybody. You know what I mean?
Man, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
And how old were you during that?
It was middle school.
Damn.
Yeah, middle school. Middle school is already hard.
It's really hard.
Especially for boys.
Yeah.
Especially for boys. You know what I mean? Like boys.
And then going through withdrawals like that for a year.
Yeah, and I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. So were you thinking you were going crazy? Like, what did you think?
Yeah. No, I honestly, I thought I was demon possessed or something. So my dad like would pray over me and stuff like that. And so I don't know. I don't know what it was, but that's the only thing I can connect it to.
I'm sure it was that.
Yeah. And so it eventually like slowly dissipated, right? And I still had like weird claustrophobia things that I don't know, I just deal with.
Yeah.
And then so I was still in the special class, right? And I would get bullied because I was in this class, right? Luckily, I was like in the younger grades, I was bigger than everybody else. But in middle school to about 9th grade, I was small. Oh. I didn't grow. Yeah. So I only grew like elementary and high school. Yeah. So and then I was always very. It made me very unconfident because I felt like I was dumb. And my older brother, he's very smart. He's like a little egghead. He's like Jared. He didn't have to study for nothing. Yeah. Jerk. And so I always saw him. He's like AP and and all these things. Yeah. And me, I was like a see happy student. Look, Mom, I passed. Yeah. You know what I mean? I didn't get in a fight this month. You know what I mean? At school. And so it was a really, really tough time. And then because also around that same time was when my dad got divorced from his second wife. And then he had to kind of step down as a pastor from the church. And then he kind of went back into the world a little bit, because he was going through his own thing. Yeah. And so then I went to high school. I was I always wanted to play basketball, so I was like a basketball guy.
Mm-hmm.
The only real thing I had going for me was that I was really good at basketball.
Yeah.
Right. I grew up collecting cards and comic books,
Mm-hmm.
and I did it mostly just for money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But okay, so then I get to high school, right? And I'm in this class, and it's funny, the same damn teacher from middle school followed me to
High school?
To high school.
Huh.
So he was the same guy.
Yeah.
I don't know how that was even possible.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was the same guy.
For the resource class?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was all your 4 classes.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember going to him my freshman year, and I was like, how do I get out of this class?
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, there's no way you're getting out of here. Your test scores are this, you're this, you're this, you're this. He's like, you don't have what it takes to get out of this class.
That school system's already like stamped you.
Yeah, yeah, like, you're dumb. You know what I mean?
Ugh.
And then so then I was like, and then I was at church,
Mm-hmm.
and because my dad stopped going to church, so my mom, I used to actually, so when my dad stopped going to church, my mom wasn't going to church.
Mm-hmm.
So I would wake up on Sunday and I would walk to church.
Wow.
To just like some local church.
Yeah.
By myself.
Yeah.
As like a 7th, 8th grader.
Yeah.
Which is weird, right?
Yeah.
And I would just go there. And then one time they had this big event because I lived on Jim Farrell on George Dieter.
Oh, okay.
So I would walk there to that local. There's 2 churches there.
Yeah.
And I would just go into one or the other one. I don't even know what.
Yeah.
I just knew I liked to be in church.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Did you feel peace there?
Yeah. It was like a restful feeling. It was also like a renewing feeling,
Mm-hmm.
right? Talk about having an empty cup.
Yes.
One time they had a special event and I was like, Mom, I want you to come to this special event, you know, because they were really hyping it at the church. So then she went with me. We went as the family, right? It was like I had to sell her on the idea to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was in service and she was like, and then afterward we left and I was like, Mom, what'd you think? She's like, I did not like what they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, we're going back to Abundant.
Oh.
So then we started going back to Abundant.
Yeah.
So I was happy about that.
Yeah.
Right? I couldn't walk to Abundant. It was too far.
Yes.
From Jim Farrell, right?
Yes.
So, and I didn't have as much of a memory of Abundant at that
Mm-hmm.
time that the youngest memory I have is like a little kid getting juice from their big Gatorade bottles when they was on Missouri, and that was the only thing that I was a kid. I don't remember. So we went back to Abundant and we just stayed there. But one time, and it was funny because Abundant had like the youth, and I remember going to the youth and I was like, I'm not getting anything out of the youth.
Yeah.
I was already like a super Christian, right?
Yes.
And you know, like my dad did mission trips, and we would pray over sick. I saw miracles. I seen all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
As a little boy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When your brain was still developing, right? So like, I believe that stuff. It's not like false. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I went to youth, it was just like
you weren't getting fed.
I wasn't getting fed at all. And one time in youth, I went and they had like a human drama, and the human drama got me. And I went from the back because I was sitting in the back all the way to the front, and then like I did the sinner's prayer thing, and it's funny because I was always Christian, right? Yeah. But it convicted me enough for me to go down there. It was Victor Falvey. I don't know if you remember Victor Falvey.
No, but I've heard that name before.
So I did that, and then I ended up just starting going back to the big church.
Yeah.
I tell you all this to tell you this. At the big church, Charles gave a message, and it was something about faith and like not believing what everybody tells you. And I internalized that for what I was going through, right? This like, you're dumb, you're never going to amount to nothing. And he convinced me, he's like, no, you can don't trust what everybody else is telling you. You can put your mind to do it and do it.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. So that's when I started asking the teacher. The teacher says, no, you're not able to do it. So then I went to my counselor, And the counselor told me, she says, okay, the only way you can do it is you have to pass your TAWS test. Remember the TAWS test?
I remember the TAWS test.
And you have to, and then you have to get all core teachers to sign off, all to take you as a risk in their class. And so come to find out later, if you're in resource, your scores don't hurt the school's overall scores.
So they want to keep you there because if you do score less, it's going to hurt the school's overall
score.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm disabled over here in this other class, right?
Dang.
Right? Yeah. And then it's a risk if I go into the regular pop. So that whole summer and between my freshman and sophomore year, I started studying stuff. And I didn't even like really know how to read. Yeah. At this time.
Like, dang.
At all.
Yeah.
You know, and because they don't make you do anything in these classes.
In resource.
Yeah. So like, and it's funny because I was collecting comic books and cards and all this stuff, and I never read a comic. Yeah. I just knew all the comics and the prices. Yeah. And I would categorize them by like the age and stuff like that, and I knew I would make trades and stuff like that, but I didn't read the comics because I wasn't good at reading. Wow. Yeah. So I had to start learning how to read, and I didn't know how to read. My dad's wife was in college. They had already broken up, and my mom got her to tutor me. A couple times when I was a kid, she told me, and it's still burned in my brain, you're never going to be as smart as your brother. Right? Yeah. She told me that. And then when she was tutoring me, she said a bunch of curses over me while she was tutoring me as well. Right? And then my uncle also tutored me to my dad's brother. Same, not the same thing, but he was like very frustrated, I could tell, for obvious reasons. You know what I mean? And he was a math teacher at the same high school that I was at, Montwood High School. Yeah. I was like, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I just like prayed a lot, and I would try and read stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? I remember one time I was like reading the manuals to the computer that we had because I like to play Warcraft. And it was so difficult. I was like, man, I'm never going to get there. And that's kind of was that feeling is like I may be this special kid forever. Yeah. That everybody's kind of like, they're there. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
So, but the truth was that it just was a muscle that was very undeveloped.
Exactly. Yes.
That's all it really was. Yeah. And I was just a hyper kid that nobody wanted to deal with. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
And I think that in society, there's so many people that are over-diagnosed. Like if your kid's doing it and you're just, because you just don't want to deal with it. You just don't want to deal with your kid being hyper, and you don't want to get the calls from the teacher. And to be honest with you, school's not made for hyper kids. People that think outside the box, creative types. We're not made for school. Yeah. You know what I mean? School's made for people that want to just follow orders and sit in a chair and shut up and regurgitate information. But that's not who I am. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can force myself now through willpower, but this is not naturally how I want to do it. If I was 8 years old, do you think? Yeah. Like imagine me as an 8-year-old.
Oh gosh.
It's like fun. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I studied all summer. I go in, sophomore year, you take your TAWS test. I took the TAWS test. I was very worried about a certain test. And so I got to, we took them all, right? And I would bring in nuts and all this stuff because my grandma, she was all into health things. Aww. So she gave me like nuts and cheeses and stuff.
Was it Brazil nuts? They're supposed to help your brain.
I don't know. I was just the only one there with snacks. No. And you know what I mean? I took the test. I passed all of them. And then I went and I found 4 teachers, and it was this thing called Synergy. You ever heard of Synergy? So Synergy is where the same 4 teachers follow you all the 4 years of your school.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. So you get to know your teachers, and your teachers kind of care about you, and like they learn your unique thing. Yeah. So they took a risk on me.
Yeah. And you passed. You did the work to pass.
Yeah. And
so that's cool.
And I worked really hard in the classes, and I would get 70s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would do extra work and do whatever I needed, you know, to pass these classes.
Yeah.
And I remember the best feeling was going back to that same teacher and being like, I need you to sign this. What's this for? I passed them out of your classes. And he was like, Ándale, güey. And so I got out, right? And I passed these things. And then another teaching Charles did convinced me to go to the school.
Ah, the school that the church had.
Yeah. And I was like, and my family didn't have the money.
Yeah. So
I went and I told everybody, I was like, hey, I'm going to do this. I was just like speaking faith or whatever.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we don't know how we're going to do it. And we don't know this and we don't know that. So somehow I convinced them, you know, because I'm a good salesman. And then we get to the school, and then I had to take a test, fail this test miserably.
Yeah. Like a placement test or something.
I was like in fifth grade level. So private school and public school is very different.
Yes.
I knew it right away.
Yes.
I know it from firsthand experience. And then they were like, I went into this class, it was like British literature. And I was like, what in the world are we talking about? Like the rhyme of the ancient mariner and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And like Kubla Khan. And I'm there like, is this English? Like, what language is this?
What does this mean?
I barely can read English. You know what I mean? You got me reading Kubla Khan. Like, so somehow, by the grace of God, I passed. But it was also a step of faith to get there too. And then for the principal to take the risk on me to keep me at the same grade level. And then I passed that. Yeah. And I barely graduated from high school. So in high school, the last, like, it was like 3 days before the end of school. And I was like failing this one class. And I had to go to Mr. Portillo, and I was like, hey, please, like, let me do something. And he's like, no, I don't think so. And I was like, what about this? And what about that? And, you know, and somehow I convinced him. He let me pass. Nice. I don't know what I did. I forget, like washed his car or something. But I got that grade. And then I went to college, right?
Oh, where did you go?
I went to Saul Ross.
Okay.
So Saul Ross, and then I redshirted on the basketball team.
Yeah. Wait, what does red shirt mean?
Red shirt means you're like a walk-on.
Oh, okay. Because you played basketball at Faith. Or yes. What was it called then?
Yeah, it was Faith.
It was Faith? Okay.
Yeah, it was Faith. I'm not that old to be at Agape.
I just always knew it as Faith. And then I hear people call it Agape. I'm like, I don't know.
Agape was like in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
I think. And so we went to, and then I redshirted. I played basketball. And then my first year in college, I made the dean's list.
Nice.
Yeah, I made the dean's list in college.
Did you work so hard to do that? Or did it just start to click?
Well, my skill set gained a lot in private school, learning how to do a lot of homework. And because college is more homework, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So college is more homework. So it's like I was more studious in doing homework than I think normal school ed people were. So a lot of the people that actually came from Montwood went there that I knew from Montwood that would make fun of me failed their first semester in college, and I was on the dean's list. So it was like a big thing for me, was this little transition between feeling like I'm mentally disabled. Yes. Right?
And people telling you that.
Yeah.
People feeding that into you.
Yeah, confirming that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Doctors confirming it. Like, when you have a doctor confirm something that's wrong with you, it's like a death sentence, right? It's like they say that somebody that gets diagnosed with cancer, it's like a death sentence. Like, if you didn't know, you probably live an extra 8 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But once you find out, it's like a death sentence.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's part of my story. That's not the whole story. That's just one of the major ones. As when I grew up, was that kind of this mental gymnastics thing. Even to this day, I don't spell well at all. I hate spelling. Yeah. Because I don't read phonetically. I read, everything's a sight word. Yeah. So everything's memory to me. So when I see a word like report or September, I don't see like
You're
the
not like sounding
phonetically.
it out. Yeah.
I don't know how to
You
sound
just
out
know
words.
that's the word.
I don't know how to sound out words.
Yeah.
Still to this day.
Yeah.
So if I see a word I've never seen before, I'm just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like I'm going through a file cabinet and nope, that's not it.
Yeah.
Nope, that's
Yeah.
And it's funny because I can tell when a word is spelled wrong
Mm-hmm.
by comparing it.
Yeah.
No, that's not right.
That's not right.
But thank God I was created in this generation because I can always just go to my phone and be like,
Siri, how do you spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious?
Yeah, like I don't have to worry. I got spell check, even on my phone, text messages.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like typing, everything's got spell check.
Yeah.
Like even when I take notes, sometimes I'll be like even today, in the internship, there was like a word I was trying to spell, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I was like, who was I texting? I just text people, but I don't actually send it. And I just
you type it out. Yeah.
Just so I can figure out how to spell it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to write it incorrectly.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, what is that? Is that supposed
wrong.
to be an E or an I? Which one goes first? I don't know the rules.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, right?
I kind of have a reading thing too.
Oh.
Which I think is interesting because I went to a Catholic school and they didn't teach us shit. So then I went to, what's it called? St. Matthew's. We didn't have money. So my parents figured out how to get me and my sister into St. Matthew's. They didn't teach us anything. So then by 3rd grade, I was at public school. I didn't know how to read. I knew a little bit of an addition. They were already at like starting multiplication. I didn't know anything. And so I do memory also. So that's interesting. I can sound things out, but it's memory. I don't do.
It's funny. Like I help the girls with their homework, and they're like, what? How do you sound this word out?
They're like, oh no, let's ask your mom. I like Jake to do the homework with the girls too, because math. I'm not a math person.
Really?
Yeah, and I had to do hard math in college, and I was in tutoring every weekend. I was like first name basis with my teachers, and she gave me passing. Like what I needed a B to be able to get into the business school at Texas State. And I worked so hard. And I did not earn a B. But I earned a B, okay? I worked hard. How interesting.
Yeah, that's funny. It's like a phobia of mine that people will find these things out.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to tell anybody. And those are not like I'm over a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I've already like gone on to be, start a business, work, and be successful in this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And like write contracts, like manage millions of dollars in business.
Yes.
And it's funny because I see things differently than everybody else, and I think it's because the way that my brain is wired, where it was kind of like not really being trained for the longest time, right? And then it was like a certain age where I started rewiring it, and it was kind of like myself. It was like I taught myself how to read and how to write, and like nobody was there to teach me how to do these things. Like I wish I would have gotten hooked on phonics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I literally bought hooked on phonics later on in college.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna learn phonics. I started watching these VHS
You're like, I'm
videos,
over it.
these VHS videos, you know what I mean? They're like drinking a beer in my trailer in college. That's so weird, right?
But did it help, or were you over it? I cannot see you going through those videos.
Honestly, I still think about it. Like, oh, you know what was really hard was language. So, okay, so I don't know phonetics, phonics and punctuation and stuff. And then they take me into Spanish class.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, how am I going to learn how to read another language that I don't like? So these phonetically, they work totally different.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is going on? So it was very
It's like
different.
Confusing your brain. You're like, these are too many things. Yeah.
Yeah, like, because I only got so much, like, hard drive that I can remember. You know, so I don't know.
I just love that you were able to, like, push past all of it and have the drive to succeed. Like, do you think that's in you? Do you think that Pastor's words, like where did it come from? That's beautiful.
I think it was inspirational. Like I've talked about it a few times that to different people, and it was like, I don't think I would be where I am today if I hadn't heard that message. That message that just changed the trajectory.
Like flipped a switch, and you were like, okay.
Yeah, like, because I was very like I was very, I don't know if you say religious, but I had strong faith. So when you connected that to who I was in my identity, I was like, oh, this is who I am. I'm not this person. So I took it and I believed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I just ran with it.
Yeah.
And then no one else could tell me any different.
Yes.
No one could tell me any different.
I love that.
You know what I mean? And
that's
it was
powerful.
Like, and the teachers, parents, step parents, siblings, kids at school, everybody was saying one thing.
Yeah.
And I was over here on my own.
You're like,
you know, with this word that I got from church.
Yeah.
And I was like, screw all you people. I'm not going to listen to it. And I just kind of went on my own.
Yeah.
Because as a parent, you don't want to like set your kids up for failure.
Yeah, totally.
It's kind of a terrifying thing when you have your kid and they have something and you don't want them to go get injured more by the world.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of like you ever seen the picture of Mary holding Jesus? Like the statue? I think Michelangelo.
Yeah, yeah.
Michelangelo statue.
I know, sure.
Yeah. And it's Jesus after he's been crucified, huh?
Yeah.
And to me, that's the strongest female picture in all of history. Is the woman that was willing to give their kid to the world.
I have chills. I'm gonna cry.
Right, but it's true.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And she was the only one that went to the foot, her and John, and watched him. You know, and Joseph wasn't there like, oh, pobrecita, you know what I mean? He wasn't there like, and she carried him. Yeah. She nursed him. It was her baby. You know what I mean? It's not like Joseph where he was kind of like separado. You know what I mean? But I think she knew from Jump Street what was supposed to happen. Yeah. But still. Yeah. Still. So she knew that whatever her kid had was worth giving it to the world, right? She didn't keep it for herself, which is a lot of women, what they do. They try and keep their babies for themselves and not let them grow up and go out and into chaos, into the unknown, into danger. Yeah. You have to let your kids grow up and go into, especially the males. You know, talking about Hispanic culture, that's the problem is, hi, mijo, come over, I'll make you, hi, your wife, she's so bad.
Oh, you know, right? Yes. Isn't that crazy?
It's so true.
We have this person in our lives. They're not in our lives anymore. But they were at a barbecue at my parents' house, and his mother made him a plate, of course, Mexican mama, brought him his food, and there was corn on the cob, elote. She's like, mijo, would you like some? And he's like, yes, Mom. She feeds him. Grown-ass man. 30-plus-year-old man. I'm sitting there, and I'm like, they're across from me, and I look at my mom, and I look at Jake, and I look at them, and everybody else is acting like that's normal. And the three of us are like, what is happening here? It's toxic. It's like, and it is. It's one of those things, like, especially once you get married or, you know, like, they have to let go, and they don't want to let go.
It's the Hansel and Gretel. It's the make my house a ginger house and fill it full of candy so my kids don't leave.
Yeah, they don't leave.
So then I can eat them myself.
Oh.
That's the worst woman in written history. So the opposite. This is the polar opposite. So Mary is she has the courage to give her kid away to the world. Yeah. And deal with the consequences. Yeah. No matter how much it hurts. Yeah. And then Hansel and Gretel is like, I'm not going to do it. I want to eat it for myself. Yeah. To feed my own self. Because that's what the woman that keeps it for herself. Yeah. It's not for the kid.
No, it's for herself.
It's for herself.
Whoa.
But that's the That's the story. I don't know how we got off on that, but that's the story of Mary. Not saying Joseph didn't take his licks, you know what I mean? But they didn't make a statue of Joseph.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they didn't make a statue of Joseph holding Jesus because he wasn't there.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know where he was at, but I don't know. Okay, well, that's really good. I love your story. I think a lot of women are going to resonate with your story.
Yeah. It needs to be talked about, and it needs to not be taboo.
Mm-hmm.
People, when it comes to mental health issues, like, got to be able to talk about it and not feel crazy, not feel, because you already feel bad, you know, and the patience and the kindness, you know, it's important.
And then you have to be able to forgive yourself too.
Yes.
Because, so like I'll give you for instance, in stepchildren, a lot of times the parents will overcompensate because they feel bad for their kids.
Yeah.
So they'll somewhat spoil them out of
guilt.
Yeah. That's the word.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a weird thing that happens when you screw up as a parent, which we all do.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Is you have to pull yourself back from like, I just want to make them happy to I want to make them prepared for life. There's two different worlds.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing I like to do, part of like thing I want to give back to the world is I want to teach people about males and their growth into manhood, and then also people that deal with ADD. I really want to speak to that. You know what I mean? Because I think there's so much disinformation in the world, and there's so many people taking all these drugs. Yeah. I'm very terrified that a lot of people are just doing this to their kids, you know, and they could really damage their kids' growth and their mental health and the way that they think about themselves. So if anybody spoke that stuff over them, you got to speak against it in front of your kids, over your kids. And I never got that. Yeah. I got that from my pastor. Yeah. That's the only one. And he didn't touch me. He didn't even pick me out of the service or anything like that. For everybody. He spoke it in the church, and then I received it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then I was like, oh, I don't have to be over there in the land of stupid. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go to this land over here. Yeah. You know, and now if people meet me, they would never think this. Like, I'm a published author. Yeah. I have like a book. Like, dude, if my teachers in middle school knew I have a book out, you know, like that, like multi-millions, you know what I mean? And like, nobody would ever know. Yeah. Nobody would ever think that. Even in high school, they wouldn't think that. Yeah. Because I didn't stop at just that. It kind of built this momentum of my life. And then I started actually reading. Like, I didn't even start really reading until like after college. Yeah. And now I'm just like a crackhead for reading stuff. Yes, you are. You know? And so it's just...
It's so my dad always told me this. My personality... When people that are important to me say something about me when I was younger, I would just take it in. Like, it doesn't matter good, bad. I would just like, oh, I'm dumb. Or I'm like my you know, like the cariños in Spanish, the gordita. I was always super chunky. My dad would tell my grandpa, you can't call her that because we're not speaking that into her life. You know, like,
that's good.
Yeah, my dad was very aware of how important your words are. Wow. And I think he could tell that I would take on what other people would say. And so he told me.
No wonder you love your dad so much. I love my
dad so much. He told me, he was like, you need to filter the words that people say. So not everything gets in. You decide what gets in. You hold it and you say, I like that. I'll take it. I don't like that. It's out. And your filter's different based on who it is. So when I talk to you, my filter's it's not a heavy duty industrial filter when I talk to you, because I know we're on the same level. And when I listen to Pastor Charles, I trust him. So my filter isn't as intense as if a person off the street.
Yeah. Because he's built a level of trust.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just so cool, like, to be told, and I didn't realize this, but you don't have to take everything everyone tells you. If you don't like it, throw it out and keep it moving. 100%. And I'm happy you were able to do that.
Yeah. I'm happy for you too, and I know you. I never would thought that you had any issue with your kids.
Nobody knew.
Yeah.
Nobody knew except for Jacob. My mom said she knew, but she never reached out. But I'm better now.
Yes, we're done. Okay.
Yay.
You give us an outro. Let's see if you can do it today.
Thanks, guys, for watching and for listening. Make sure that you like and subscribe and share with your friends. And if this resonates with you at all, leave us a message. Let us know. Comments, all of that.
Yeah, and maybe any questions that they may have for you.
Totally.
Or any questions you might have on ADD.
Yeah.
We'll be in the comments and I'll be like arguing with people.
Yeah. Let's do it. Have a good one, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye. God bless.